Hi, good afternoon. My name's Alastair Caithness. I'm the CEO of ZIY004. So, unlike my other vlogs when I'm speaking about taking a company public, building a relationship with the SEC, Regulation A+, Regulation D, 506C, security token offerings, today I'm going to speak about why I hate the word retarded. So, people think, retarded? Why do you even say that? You know, the word essentially came from mental retardation. It was a clinical expression. The sad thing is now it's actually used as a derogatory word to describe somebody who's being stupid or silly. Most people use it in everyday life without realizing how hurtful it is to so many people out there. So if you're out there and you just called someone a retard today, or in Scotland where I'm from, they call people spastics or spaz. You know, he's a spaz, he's a spastic, he's retarded. You know, as children, that's what we use, and children can be cruel. But when you go into adulthood, you know, you can choose your own words. Now, what I used to do was get very upset and argue with people and say things with them and try to fix it somehow, you know? You're using the word retarded and I don't feel happy about it. Now, why am I so unhappy about it? Well, my older son Malachi is autistic. He's on the autism spectrum. So they say he's on the spectrum. But the sad thing is that, you know, he's such a beautiful little boy. I love him to bits. This is him and his birthday. And I'm showing you this for a reason. There's Malachi there, about to blow off his candles, and there's me dressed up as Captain America. That's my favourite costume to wear. I actually bought the costume and wear it as often as possible. It's got fake muscles, so that's why I like it so much. So he's an autism spectrum, you know, and I have to deal with this. And when we got the diagnosis in the family that Malachi's autistic, you know, and as he was growing up, you could tell he wasn't developing the same way as a typical child. There was slight differences. When they're very young, it's very difficult to tell, but when speech starts coming through and he's delayed in speech, that's when it becomes more apparent. So it's a neurological disorder. Malachi has challenges that typical developing child don't have, and that's something you've got to deal with as a family. It affects so many people. You know, it's just out there. You'll have friends, brothers, sisters, family members who'll have somebody who's on the spectrum, or somebody who's dealing with someone with a physical disability or a disability that's neurological, and that affects people. You know, depression's one of the big ones. You know, we don't laugh at people who are depressed and hang themselves anymore. You know, it's just say, oh well, he's a retard. You know, he hung himself. You know, well, we don't want to describe it like that because that's not fair. So why is it fair to use the retarded? They use it in movies, you know. He's retarded. He's a spastic. He's a spaz. Oh, well, it's just to be funny. You know, I googled this before I came online and saw 50 cents on Twitter. No, say it was a few years ago, saying somebody, you know, he's autistic, as if he's a retard. You know, why would you say that? Now, obviously, he's not going to do it again. He got like a huge backlash against it. It was a negative thing for him to say, but he's just doing it because general society says it. And the same way I would never use the N-word ever to describe 50 cents because people don't use that anymore. You don't even want to say that. So why can you use the R word to describe people who have problems or difficulties and challenges to come over? Because when you say that, whether you're just trying to be funny and say it about your friend, oh, we just use it in a joke, we didn't actually mean it, and when we said it, we weren't thinking about your child or the difficulties that your child faces to be included, to be accepted, because he's different. Well, I just said it because they did a dumb thing and I just wanted to call you retard. Well, you don't have to use that word, but people do. And it's just something that's affected us, and it affects me every single time I hear it. Now, initially I used to get so angry with it, but I don't get angry as much anymore. I get upset. I just choose not to be around people that use these words. because I'd just rather not hear it, you know? And they might say, well, I'm using the word retarded to describe somebody who did something stupid, but I wasn't meaning your son, you know? But it doesn't make me feel any better, you know? I was using the word spastic to describe someone who did something stupid, but wasn't speaking about your brother or your sister or your auntie or your uncle, because that wasn't what it was about. You know, we're in a society now whereby that's so hurtful for a lot of people. And now you're looking at 1 in 49 children who are on the spectrum. They're getting born now. So there's a 1 in 49 chance that you're going to have a child who's going to be in the spectrum. Therefore, going forward, this is not a nice way for you to describe it to them. Now, how can we stop this? Well, it's one of these things. It's transition over time. Maybe the word will fade out. Maybe we'll be seeing the word in the same way we see the N-word to describe someone of colour. Because there's nothing nice about it to anyone who is or has a family member who's affected by autism, who's affected by Down syndrome, who's affected by any other neurological or physical disability. It's horrible. Now, people don't say that, oh, well, I wasn't thinking about your child, but then it doesn't matter, does it? And I used to have a real problem to accept it. You know, it's like the big thing out there is with autism, and why I speak about it today, and why in every single presentation I will do a section on autism at the end, just to increase awareness, to provide facts and figures how it affects everyone out there. And in order for us to deal with this going forward, we need to be more accepting they are individuals. They're not just basically tarred with a brush. Well, that's it, we've got to write you off because of this disability. Why is that? They're part of society. They're your son, they're a brother, or they're a sister, or they're an uncle, or an auntie. And if you're related to these people, and that's part of if it's a cousin, if you're related to them, and you get to spend time with them, and you understand them, and you build a relationship with them, you hate that word too. But for other people, it just goes by. Now, it took me probably, if I'm truthful, from diagnosis, it took me 6 months before I could actually tell anyone. Obviously told my mum and dad, told my brother, and, you know, some 2 or 3 close friends. But most people, they hadn't a clue. And it was only once I started to do fundraising for Autism Speak, I joined the committee with Autism Speak, and last year I was chairman of the Autism Speaks Walk in San Diego. And it was something I was very proud to do, because I realised I could go out there and help people become more aware of it, help people understand that there's therapies out there for your child. Getting a diagnosis shouldn't be seen as the end of something for your child. It's actually the beginning. By getting a diagnosis that your child's on the spectrum gives you access to therapy and how you actually access this therapy. And being a businessman and getting trained through business by a number of different mentors, it helps me. It helps me in being able to deal with the schools, to deal with the different public authorities that's refusing you different therapies, to go out there and speak on people's behalves. Because if it can affect me, it can affect everyone. It does affect everybody. And everyone who it affects affects you in a different way. But when I first started to do it, I found it very difficult to deal with. I found it very difficult to speak about it. And they'd be in people's companies and they would be saying, oh, that person's retarded, look at them. The person's got a learning disability, he's a retard. That's what they say, he's a retard. And I see people say that. Wait a minute, that's what they're going to be saying about my son and my son being Malachi. I don't want them to say that. That's horrible. He's a beautiful little boy, you know. He's just a little boy growing up in the world, and he's going to face more challenges than most. See, to begin with, when I used to hear the word retarded and spastic, and I remember at school when we were young, you know, in Scotland, we'd call people spastics and spaz, you know. And quite often then, because no one actually had a clue about neurological disabilities and things that people faced, that you would just say that, and you were cruel and you said it about other children. I think back to what I know about autism now, that I had 3, 4, 5 people in my class that were probably on the spectrum, and they were bullied for being different and bullied for being slower, taking longer to process information and learn in a different way. And then because we were all lumped together, that's what you did. Now that's kids, they're little. But by being aware and accepting, and children nowadays, if you actually provide this information and provide them this ability to learn, then hopefully society will move forward, and then we don't have to use it in the, I'm trying to think of the word, but it's just a degradatory way. It degrades what it is. It's not what it's about, and that's sad for someone, and especially someone like me. So I went from not being able to speak about it. It took me 6 months to actually accept it. I was so afraid of what was going to happen. I have no idea for the future. I'm afraid for me, I'm afraid for my family, but most of all I'm afraid for Malachi. How's the world going to accept Malachi? He shows me different parts of the world I would never see if I didn't have a child who's on the spectrum. I meet people from every single walk of life, from every economic background, from every colour, from every race, from every creed, and we've all got one thing in common. And that's, we've got a child on the spectrum. And if they accept my son, I don't care who you are, I don't care your sex, I don't care your colour, I don't care where you come from, I do not care what it is. If you accept my son, I will accept you. That's the way I look out in life now, So I've changed my outlook on it. But to begin with, I had it was fear and hatred and all these things into one, and why has this happened, and what can I do about it, and what can I do, and is it affecting people? And then I realised that I can go and help people and speak about it, and there's lots of other people like that. And I remember a turning point had been made chairman Autism Speaks Walks. I'm chairman of a large charity that does a lot of awareness for autism. At the time I was chairman last year, so I'm doing a fundraising event. So I'm dressed up in my that's the point of the story, I'm dressed up as my Captain America right there, and we're doing it in the air conditioned lounge. So we set everything up there. I put in the fancy dress, my brother-in-law is DJing, Johnny Knight, he's coming down DJ for free to help with awareness for it. Everyone else there, we're taking pictures to do awareness of it. There's people who are already there, didn't come down for that, who are all accepting. We're putting little stickers up, we're speaking about it, I'm speaking to lots of people about it. I'm dressed in Captain America suit, and then this guy comes over to me, he's probably 10 years older than me, and goes, I've got a friend whose kid's 23 years old and still wears a diaper. He's a retard. What do you think about that? It's like, okay, yeah, well, your son, he's obviously, it's going to be difficult for him. It's, what would you want me to say right now? He says, well, if he's 23 and he wears diapers, your son's going to be 23 and wear diapers. And I say, well, luckily my wife's actually managed, from hours and hours and hours of training, she's actually got Malachi toilet trained, which is great for us. But I know there's lots of families out there that I've met, and I've met people who are autistic, who are now adults, and then they have to wear diapers, So I know that's going to be difficult for your friend and for his son. And these are challenges that he's got to deal with. And they proceeded to say, yeah, he's retarded. And I'm thinking, he's a retard that wears diapers when he's 23 years old. What do you think about that? I said, I just told you that my son, okay, he's 5 years old at the time, he's not retarded. And he looked at me again and just said, yeah, but what do you think? He's 23 years old. He's a retard that wears diapers. What do you think about that? Now, this is a guy I've never met before, and I'm out fundraising in a place. So I said, listen, mate, all I'm here is to raise awareness for autism. Luckily, my son Malachi has been toilet trained, but I do know people out there, and this is challenges that your friend's going to have to face, and other people are going to have to face as well who've got that problems, And what they don't want to hear is you calling them retard, because they have to face these challenges on a daily basis. And the guy turns around and looks at me again and just says, my friend's son's 23 years old, he's a retard, he's autistic, and he wears diapers. What do you think about that? So I just turned around, and bearing in mind this was when I was starting to deal with the problems of dealing with autism, and then, at the end of the day I'm a businessman, and I'm usually up for any sort of argument with certain people when it's these sort of situations. So I just turned around and looked him straight in the eye and just said, how much money do you make? And he looked at me and I says, I don't think you make 100k. In actual fact, looking at your clothes right now, I doubt you even make 50k. And he looked at me and just like went, yeah, but I've got a good job. I said, I'm just looking at your clothes right now. And honestly, I can't even see you making $40,000 a year. How does that make you feel? You know, how does that make you feel? You don't even make 40,000 a year. And look at you, you're probably close to 60. You know, some great career you've had, mate. How does that make you feel? Yeah, but I just wanted to tell you that my friend's son's a retard and he has to wear diapers. And I'm just telling you that I think you don't make $40,000 a year and you're nearly 60 years old and you've probably had a bit of a shitty career if that's all you've managed to do. How does that make you feel? And he just looked at me and I said, exactly. And he looked at me again and he says, well, what do you do? And I said, well, I run an oil company. So how does that make you feel? I run an oil company. I've got a son who's in the autism spectrum and 6 years old. Now, if I make this a successful business, he's going to have a different career path to you. And how much money you make has got absolutely nothing to do with who you are. But it didn't make you feel good that I just asked you those questions, did it? And he goes, no. And how much money you make is absolutely nothing to do with what types of character you are, because that's got nothing to do with it again. So how does that make you feel? All I wanted to do was make you feel bad, in the same way you made me feel bad by talking about your friend. So let's just leave it at that. Now, funnily enough, the rest of the night, the guy's following me around. He wants to speak to me. He wants to keep speaking to me, you know? We're giving donations. At first, he didn't even want to give a donation. You know, he's wanting to give me $40 now. Because I've obviously said something that struck a chord with this guy. And and the reason I'm telling you this is, you know, one, I shouldn't be chairman of a charity when I'm going out picking fights with people when we're actually supposed to be doing an awareness thing. And two, it's because I wanted him to feel the same pain that he was feeling to me. And that's not right either, because that doesn't help anyone. And then it was later on that evening, he came up there and he was getting so emotional. And just said, listen, I've got $40, I want to give you the $40. I said, listen, mate, you know, I'll tell you what, I'll take $20 and you keep $20. And tomorrow, what are you doing tomorrow night? He says, well, I'm not doing anything. I said, what you should need to do is phone up your friend, go around and see him, buy some beers. Does he drink beer? Oh, he drinks beer. And does he look after, he's a full-time carer for his son. Well, he probably has nobody come visit him Saturday night, mate. So if you go around there with a few beers, with your $20, maybe speak to his son. He might be verbal, non-verbal, I don't even know who that guy is. But by you going round and spending some of your valuable time having a few beers with your friend, that'll mean all the world to him. And he actually just went and hugged me. And we hugged there as well, and I actually had tears coming down my eyes because I've not told this story, especially in camp. And it made me realise that I can help awareness. I can help people see that, you know, it affects everybody. But what I can't do is I can't be mean and I can't be nasty and I can't put people down, because if I do that to every single person I meet, then I'm no better than them by them using the word retard or spastic. So the next time you're going to use the R word, think about it. Just think about it for 1 second. Just 1 second. You got to think about it. Just think, is there anyone ever in my vicinity that could hear that and it could affect them? And affect them the same way that it brought tears to my eyes right now. Now, not because you want to describe someone, and not because it's not the way to do it, because you want to think about them as a person, because they are a person, you know? And that's what's key. So, please, think about friends, think about family, think about people who have a family member who have got a disability and who has got challenges. And by you changing that one word, you can have a relationship with them. And every time I hear that word from now on, I see it in a movie. I see it in social media. I see it in a comment. I see it in a blog. I see it in a WhatsApp group. Before I wanted to say something, before I wanted to hurt them. Now it's just like, I just ignore them. I don't want to be part of it anymore. I take myself out of it. Because I don't need to put myself out of it. And all you're going to do is take away my company from your life. And you'll never get a chance to build a relationship with my son. And now that might mean nothing to you, or it might mean something to you. But you think of the millions of people out there who have hardship and have to deal with this on a daily basis. And I'm talking from my view as a parent. You think of the people out there who are on the spectrum, who have got disabilities. They're a person. And your job is to get to know them as a person. And they're defined on who they are and not what this disability or challenge has made their life more difficult. And just be a little bit more accepting, because that's what we need to do. Thanks very much. Have a nice day.